Hi, my name's Lin Goetz. I am running to become your next Oakland County prosecutor. Many people have asked me why I'm doing that, and the answer is simple. It's for you. You have worked hard for your businesses, your homes, your families to achieve a lifestyle that is safe, that is worth enjoying. It's a great place in Oakland County where you can live, work, and play literally. And I'm running for Oakland County prosecutor to keep it that way. As part of giving you a little bit about myself, I would tell you that I have been an attorney for 28 and a half years, almost 29. Of those 28 and a half years, I have always practiced in criminal law. I have represented victims as an assistant prosecuting attorney or as a city attorney. I have fought side by side with law enforcement. I have also worked in the hallways as a defense attorney, talking to defendants about what to expect next and to walk them through the system. So I have a balanced perspective from both sides of the case to bring to the table in defending you and what you have built for your future, for your family's future, to keep what is safe and important to you, exactly that, safe. Your organization has asked me to answer 4 questions. Of the 4 questions, the first one states, what are your top 3 improvement goals for the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office? First and foremost, I want to refocus efforts on helping victims, especially those of domestic violence. Many people don't know, but when I was 7 years old, my dad woke me up out of bed. He and my mom had been arguing. He took me into the kitchen and then sat a gun on the table, sat me in his lap and looked at me about as close as I am looking at you right now and said, if you don't go tell your mom that you don't love her, I will kill her. At 7, that's a whole lot to take on. My point being that my mom was a victim of domestic violence, but so are we in a way. There are more victims of domestic violence than just the one that's actually being assaulted. It's everyone that loves them as well. As such, I want to make sure that we give victims, including children who are victims, a chance to speak out, to give them a voice in the courtroom. When a law enforcement officer goes and helps a victim and her family out of that situation, or a victim and his family out of that situation, we want to make sure that they have the resources to make it, to get free from that situation. And that's especially important for children who can't do it alone. I want to support law enforcement as they help you feel safe and to build a better life for you and your family. So first and foremost, I want to refocus very heavily, especially in COVID times where everyone's been kind of locked up, on helping domestic violence victims and other victims of crime to rebuild their lives after something terrible has happened to them. And part of that is having a voice in the courtroom. I also want to establish, the second part of this is to establish a public integrity unit. The public integrity unit would handle a number of things, from conviction integrity to increasing communications with law enforcement, community organizations, and citizens like yourself. Specifically, if we have a case going on and you know that someone has a mental health issue, a defendant may not tell us, but you may have that information and can say, hey, can you look into this issue? That will be part of the public integrity unit. It will also be an education arm of the prosecutor's office. When there are new or amended charges or things coming down the pipeline from the legislators, you have a new crime, but how is the prosecutor's office going to handle that with law enforcement, with various community organizations, and how should the citizens expect me to handle that situation? That's all part of the public integrity unit. There's a specific part called conviction integrity. That is extremely important, again, for victims of crime. Say, for example, a victim of rape. They now call it criminal sexual conduct. But rape is devastating to a victim. She believes that the prosecution has gone forward, put the guy that hurt her in prison. And then there's new evidence that puts that in question. Was the right guy put in prison for that rape? It could be DNA evidence, it could be witnesses, it could be a number of things. But she deserves the peace of mind of us looking at that case and making sure we have the right guy. And if we don't, we have an ethical obligation to set him free or move for his freedom and to go after the correct guy. And law enforcement, believe it or not, really does want to do the right thing and have the right person in prison for the crimes that they're charged with. So this is critical to a victim. It would be part of our public integrity unit that I intend to implement. The third thing is very sensitive right now. I want a zero tolerance policy. I am going to implement that across employment lines. I want it across charging as well. I have zero tolerance for anyone that judges someone based on having more or less pigment in their skin, whether they're female, male, whether there's differences in lifestyles, or whether they're heterosexual, homosexual, any other kind of thing. That has no bearing in whether or not someone has committed a charge or committed a crime against a victim. And it needs to be a zero tolerance. We have to treat everyone fairly. We have to treat them fairly in hiring. We have to treat them fairly in charging. And I intend to have a zero tolerance policy. That's the three things I plan to first and foremost implement. There are additional things like reviewing the juvenile cases and bringing those up to speed, trying to get defense and families together to address those in court and move those cases along. But the three that are most important are refocusing efforts on victims, public integrity unit, and a zero tolerance policy. Your second question is, what is my plan to address hate crimes? Those crimes are covered under the ethnic intimidation laws in our state. But the question goes on to say, what is my plan to address hate crimes against people of various races, religions? I've kind of touched on that a bit with the zero tolerance policy, but specifically on the flip side, if someone harms you simply because you are in a particular classification, whether it's race or a religion, whether you're Jewish, Baptist, Hindu, that is the one time that my zero tolerance will have a exception. And that is because we are going to prosecute those to the absolute fullest of the law that we can. I have no tolerance for judging people that way. I think people demonstrate their character through their actions, and it's your actions that should speak on whether you be charged or not. And if you act like a fool who wants to go and harm someone simply because they're different than you, I will bring the full force of the prosecutor's office down on your shoulders. The third question is, what will I do to develop a trusting relationship with the immigrant community in Oakland County? By supporting all victims. If a victim happens to be an illegal immigrant, a legal immigrant, a citizen, a resident, you will get the same fair treatment. If you are the victim of domestic violence, I am going to reach out to various community organizations. I'm going to make sure prosecutors are back involved in community organizations, that they're back participating on the boards with their churches and getting involved, so that you'll have someone you can go, hey, by the way, I have questionable status or whatever, and my spouse is beating me. Can I call the cops safely? And the answer is yes. It does not matter in the eyes of justice if you are legal or not. What you have the same rights to not be harmed by people here in our community. Now, if you are a victim and you want to become a legal resident or citizen, then certainly we can try and refer you to outside attorneys, give you a list of attorneys that help with those sorts of things and try and get you on the right path. But if you are a victim of crime, we will fight for you no matter what your status is. As I indicated, I also want to get the prosecutors, for a while there, it was discouraged that they not participate in various community organizations. I have the absolute opposite approach. I think we have to be out there, as do our officers, participating and being there for you, so that if you are that person, we can represent you as well. Your fourth question is, what is your number one priority while you are in the prosecutor's office? My answer is simple. My number one priority is you, your safety. We live in Oakland County for a reason. It's a great county, but we need to back our law enforcement. As Oakland County residents, we expect that the laws are followed, And if they're not, that our law enforcement will be there to help and protect us. And that they in turn have a chief law enforcement officer in the prosecutor's office that will be there to help support them as they do their job to make sure that those charges are appropriate and that they are followed through on. I will do that for you. I am not focused on defendants' rights. I am there for you, the legal citizen, the legal resident, the person that has built their life here and invested themselves in this community that deserves to know law enforcement is there for you. If you are a victim of crime, you need to know you can turn to us and we will be there. My priority is you and your safety in this community. Even if you're a visitor, you have a right to be safe here. That's what I'm fighting for. With respect to that, there's too much focus on defendants, just too much. We're talking about jail numbers, we're talking about other things, but the reality is you're the one that's important. You're the one that is here in this community and it's your business, your family. Enough is enough focusing on jail numbers. The best way to reduce jail numbers is to have strong law enforcement so they know not to come here and commit the crimes. I'm focused on you and your safety, on victims and law enforcement. I will be a strong supporter of good law enforcement. Anyone who breaks the law will have to face the prosecutor's office. We will prosecute those cases. I will make sure of it. With respect to that, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, for telling you my story, for telling you how important it is to represent all victims, to make sure that they have a voice in the courtroom. I will fight for you. I will back good law enforcement. They will have the full force of the prosecutor's office behind them. And that means when they stand behind you and say, I'm here for you, I'm here to get you out of this situation, that you have me standing behind them. Together, we work hand in hand to make this a great community. This is a critical election. It's so important. You have two very, very, very different candidates for prosecutor. My opponent has different views and is focused on defendants. I'm focused on victims and law enforcement and keeping you safe. With that, have a great day. I appreciate you letting me speak to you this way.